Hello and welcome back to Out of Spec. You join me and Jess behind the camera at North American Honda headquarters here in Torrance, California, with two very important vehicles. These are the prototypes of the Saloon and the SUV under the new Zero series. That's a kind of a way to think about it, as a sub-brand under Honda that is their forward-thinking, future-thinking electric vehicles. Zero kind of meaning starting from ground zero. Kind of like what we've seen with Jaguar, but Honda's done it in a much less controversial way.
Bruh.
Oh my God, bro.
Oh, hell no.
So, we're going to take a huge deep dive into whatever we can show you with the prototypes. They're not production ready, but they're much closer than you initially saw back in CES 2024 when we first saw a very concept-y but still cool Saloon and Space Hub back then. Now we have the Saloon much closer to production, and the SUV, which will actually make production first.
Huge thank you to Climate Exchange for sponsoring this video. Guys, we are working with Climate Exchange for their 9th EV Raffle, and this time the prizes are awesome. The first place winner has the chance to earn $120,000, not to spend on a pre-selected car, but to go out and choose the electric car that you want. That means you can choose a Tesla, a Rivian, a Lucid. The list goes on, and you are not locked into a certain grand prize choice. Also, if you win, the taxes and fees are included, which is unusual, but really great if you happen to win this one. There's also a second and third place prize as well, $12,500 for second place and $7,500 for third place. If you're not familiar with Climate Exchange, they're a nonprofit working with states to fight climate change. They also have sold about half of their tickets already, so make sure you follow the link in the description below to purchase your tickets for a chance to win. The raffle ends on February 26th, so all you have to do to enter is to go to carbonraffle.org/outofspec.
So I think these are very important because this is kind of Honda's first real ground up EV here in North America. We of course had the Honda E over in Europe. That thing was super adorable. Japan had it too. I wish I could have one in the US, but I guess I have to wait like 21 years to legally import one. And then there actually is a recent Yay P7 and S7. Those are Honda's EVs over in China. Also very cool cars. So all we have at the moment in the US is the Honda Prologue, which is one of the better crossovers as far as looks, but let's be honest, it is a GM with Honda badges. But it is a GM with CarPlay. So if you really like CarPlay, I guess that's the way to go. But today we are looking at these prototypes, sort of concepts. I actually like the strategy that we've been seeing here. At CES 2024, we saw the early prototype concept Saloon. Now we're seeing a more production ready prototype Saloon, and I like to see this iteration of concepts. Typically we're just met with disappointment because a lot of times we see a concept and then like 8 years later the production car, which looks nothing like the concept, and everyone's just sad. So I'm really excited to see this iteration, the Saloon, which we'll be diving into in a minute, but also maybe they'll show more things before we see final production late next year. So right now we are going to focus on whatever deep dive we can on these two cars, because this is an important conversation. I know Kyle doesn't like to cover concept cars that much on the channel because, well, they're concepts, but I actually do want to follow the story, and this is really a first glimpse of where Honda's going. I like to see where the direction's going with the EV strategy of big important companies like Honda. The ethos of the Zero series is thin, light, and wise. We're going to be looking at these kind of in that scale, but ultimately I'm a car guy and I really think of Honda, I think of the S2000, and that would really be wise because it's thin and light. But until they have an electric S2000 follow-up, I guess we'll settle for these. So let's take a look at the Saloon first, and then we'll follow with the SUV, which is the actual next thing to come in production. So first off, the Saloon. It's funny, all the articles coming out and videos and everything from CES 2025, which is where they first showed these two off as in their current state. A lot of people mention Lamborghini Countach or Lamborghini Gallardo. I'm going to lean more Gallardo just because I like that more, and it's a more modern Countach, and that's what the front end does remind me of. And that's good, I think. That was such a cool, unique design element. And you can also tell, I mean, Honda's history of wedge shapes is also very accurate in the 90s. They did have the NSX, which I'm a huge fan of that car as well. And that's kind of, you could see ethos of that, right, Jess?
Yeah, definitely.
But otherwise, it's really cool. You have interesting lighting signatures. We can overlay some B-roll of like when you walk up to the car, how the car greets you. And of course, back to the accurate NSX, the Honda NSX, and even the Lamborghini Countach, I guess, they had flippy headlights, which everyone loves. But of course, in the early 2000s, those became illegal. Maybe it was even late 90s. I don't know, somewhere in that era that became illegal because of federal safety regulations. So everyone just went with integrated headlights. Fine. But when you're trying to do a really sleek car, I guess now we have LED technology, so you don't really need anything that dramatically big. So these headlights obviously don't fold, they slide up, which is still cool. It brings that nice piece of nostalgia that we want to harken back to think of the flippy headlights. And it's a really cool mechanism of how they do that. And these are just, of course, bright LEDs. This is, again, not final production, but you get where they're going, and I'm really excited to see where they really follow up. I don't know if these will necessarily stay, but we'll see how the turn signal indicators and everything come to fruition. And you might remember from CES 2024, there was a huge screen down here, and it looked like sort of a vacuum cleaner. Now they've really cleaned it up, and I really like where they went with this. Huge spoiler splitter down here. This looks like that kind of forged carbon situation, not like the woven carbon fiber. So curious if that also makes it. I guess we're looking at all of this under the guise of we don't know what's final production. But something that really shines bright like a diamond on the front of the hood is this new logo. It is meant to be for the 0 Series. Initially, at least, it'll be just for their EVs, which is kind of cool. Having a separate, more modern looking logo for the more modern looking cars makes sense. But it does kind of have a bit of a callback to the original logo from the 60s, which I really do like. That one also had a bit of a wider H. It did have something wrapping around it, but that H is kind of supposed to be reminiscent of like outstretched hands greeting you, which I think is pretty cool. I don't know, what do you think of the new logo?
I think what I love about this car so much about it is a tribute to Honda's legacy in technology and being a pioneer in technology.
Oh yeah, Honda had the first hybrid that was really mass produced right before the Prius did, but so like we kind of think of those in the same breath, but they had a hybrid, I think 99 is when it was actually brought over to the States, which is now 26 years ago. So they have been, you're right, like a pioneer in electrification in a lot of ways, and also in ADAS, which we can talk about later.
I mean, the logo pays homage to some of the older models, right? We have the Asimo operating system, which we'll get into later, which also pays homage to its robotics department and the technology that Honda has developed there. And then, of course, as Jordan just said, the shape of the car pays homage a little bit to the NSX.
Right. Yeah, so a lot of callbacks to earlier, and it was cool like walking through the museum earlier at headquarters, which is really cool to come see, by the way. And they even do cars and coffee and stuff sometimes. So it's really cool to see Honda's reach into the community that way. But it was cool to go through the museum and see what little things are they maybe harkening back to with these cars. Anyways, continuing on with the Saloon, I guess harkening back to thin, light, and wise. This is very thin, looking down the side profile. I mean, I'm 6 foot tall, and this is like below my chest in a way. So it's very, very low profile, very wide, which again reminds me of the Lamborghini Gallardo. I'm just going to keep mentioning that, which is fun and hilarious. But the elephant in the room that I feel like a lot of people talk about is the C-pillar. Right back here, you just have a huge amount of real estate. With this car, it's not as big of a deal, I think, because it is so long, so you have so much glass in front of it, so much black in front of it, and obviously a huge glass roof too, which will be cool to see in the inside in a little bit here. But kind of like the Polestar 4, you don't actually have any view out of the back other than the rear view camera, the digital rear view camera, which is totally fine. I think the Polestar 4 got a lot of bad press for doing that, but I mean, it's not illegal. Some people are like, wait, is that legal? You know, delivery vans usually can't see out of the back. and the Polestar 4 has one of the best rear view cameras I've ever seen, literally. There's a lot of other cars with rear view digital cameras on the market, and a lot of them are terrible. Toyota. So I'm excited to see how good theirs is going to be with this car. And without having to have rear visibility is what brings you to the ability to do something like this. If you really walk around, you can see the 3D-ness of this whole thing. The Honda is like suspended in midair. You have these little lines in here, and it also greets you, and then you can walk away and it'll ungreet you, say goodbye, I guess, with, you know, cool lighting animation. Although I am curious, the way the turn signals are done, it's kind of interesting because when the left turn signal's on, you can only really see that from the right with the way it's like blocked off like this. So it's always fascinating for me to see what comes to final production from these prototypes. Kyle likes to ignore the concepts. I like to jump head first into them. Maybe that's not the best approach, but between the two of us, I'd say we're balanced. Around the side, back around the side, I guess I should say, really long doors, which we'll show opening in a minute. This one doesn't even actually have door handles, so you have to use a really cool remote that they built just for these cars. To access them, there are powered door handles, or powered doors. But you have this sill down here, and actually, it's kind of deceiving. From standing up next to it, if you look down, it looks like a lot of ground clearance from up here, but it actually just curves delicately underneath the car. More of that kind of forged carbon appearance, and two fairly large concept-y wheels. I don't know if they'll be this big in the final concept, but at the moment, 22-inch on the front, Michelin Pilot Sport 4S, awesome, super fast, fun, sticky tire for the roads. And then on the back here, this is a 21. So it is kind of a mismatched setup. That's fairly common on cars, especially with this design language, actually. Having a smaller front tire, a bigger rear tire with wheel, just kind of makes the whole design feel like it's getting bigger and bigger into the back. So interesting wheel design. I really hope they do something similar to this in final production. We saw really fascinating wheel designs with Kia and Hyundai for some of their concepts, and to their credit, they kept relatively in that same ethos for their final production cars. I'm hoping the same happens here. Don't get our hopes up with really cool wheels and then rip it apart from us. Our hearts can't handle that. What do you think of the design, Jess?
I think it looks great. I know that some people have speculation about like the size of the wheel and then how the wheel wells are kind of designed now. So we'll see whether or not they can keep that level of like tightness and sleekness on the final version.
They usually don't. Every time we see a final production car, it's like there's a huge wheel gap and you got to get spacers to get proper fitment and look good at car meets, but you know, not everyone buys cars for that. It is interesting. This is see-through. You can't always tell these details from the press photos or video, but like this kind of looks like the forged carbon, but it's actually a see-through panel, and then these are like blade-like things that just kind of wrap around in this, what is this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spoke. I can't even count the spokes because there's so much going on here. And you also know they're very attention to detail because all the H's on all the wheels are all perfectly upright, which is great. I mean, most cars do that in this sort of showroom scenario. The last thing I want to touch on, digital rearview mirrors. That's a very concept thing. And that's probably what it'll look like when this car goes to other markets besides North America. But here in North America, sadly, we're stuck with physical, big, ugly mirrors that hurt your efficiency. No one likes that. So I hope the lawmakers can maybe adjust that eventually. Write your local lawmen. I don't know how these changes go into effect, but if I was president, there's a lot of things I would do for the car enthusiast world. The other thing is the temporary potential location for the charging port. This will launch with NACS, of course. No idea on charging specs other than the website mentions kind of a 15 to 80% goal in 10 to 15 minutes, which is pretty impressive, but the industry standard really is 10 to 80, so I'm not really sure why it was 15 to 80. And then 10 to 15 minutes is a huge disparity in terms of a percentage of time. That's still a great experience. Like if you're looking at the targeted, by the way, 300-ish plus miles of range, that's totally fine. Most people's stops are, you know, longer than 10, 15 minutes. I mean, you and I just took a road trip, Jess, and every time we had to charge for less than 20 minutes, we were like rushing. So I don't think people need the fastest charging as they think they do. But I'm really excited to see what they actually come out with and, of course, test it ourselves. That's the only bummer, and that's probably why Kyle doesn't like filming concept cars, because he wants to just take it immediately to a charger, plug it in, and just film that, which we'll do eventually. So on the note of charge ports, it also seems like a most common question is, why was it not put in the driver's rear or the passenger front? Because that is the correct location for Tesla superchargers. I guess the rebuttal to that is Tesla is quickly, well, at the moment, kind of slowly, but hoping to ramp up V4 charging dispensers rapidly. We don't have any full V4 chargers at the moment in the US, but we have lots of V4 dispensers making their way into the public, and those have longer cables. They're literally meant to charge non-Teslas, including cars that don't have it in the Tesla default location. So I'm not really that concerned about it, but I'm curious what you guys think of the optimal charge port. Other than trying to work with a supercharger, what is the best location? This is obviously convenient being on the driver's side, whether front or rear, I don't know if it really matters. Lucid does this exact same thing. It's actually very similar shape as well. The Prologue also has it up here. That's just where GM put their charge ports. So that's charging. We don't know much about charging yet. Batteries, we don't know much about the batteries yet, or the motors. There's a lot that is still to be revealed, but we know they're targeting efficiency. Part of, again, back to their thin, light, wise situation, trying to do the most range, the best charging with less battery, having energy dense battery cells and efficient, compact motors, kind of like maybe what we've seen with Lucid. You know they're looking at other companies, you know they're benchmarking other companies, so I'm really excited to see where they go with that. Because again, my whole goal in life is just an electric roadster, and so the lighter batteries get, the more power dense they get, the more chance I have to have my light electric roadster. Speaking of, though, the chargers, before we move on, Honda is one of those 8 companies associated with Iona. I was at the Iona grand opening out in North Carolina, and they're ramping up chargers as we speak. In fact, on our recent road trip over in Out of Spec Motoring, we saw 2 more upcoming Iona locations in the I-70 corridor. Iona at the moment does have NACS and CCS ramping out across the board, so you could take your current Prologue or future 0 series to an Iona charger, but it will also have Tesla supercharger access, basically just a lot of charging capabilities throughout the board. I'm really excited to try the route planner situation that they're working on. Honda's working on everything, and so as we've made many videos talking about what it takes to be a really good EV, one of those things is really good route planning and good conditioning logic, preconditioning the battery for good charging, which they're quoting hopefully good charge times. They're trying to do a lot of things right. The software is a huge deal. We'll get to that in the interior in just a moment. But the last thing I wanted to mention up here is this little LiDAR bump situation. Similar to what we've seen on Polestar and the Volvo EX90 that me and Kyle recently reviewed. That is kind of pointing to their ADAS capabilities. I know, Jess, you've done some research on what they're aiming for. What are your thoughts on the 80/ADAS, having experienced FSD so much?
Yeah, I mean, we all know that Jordan's a huge fan of Tesla and their FSD capabilities. I think what Honda is aiming to roll out sounds, dare I say, superior to Tesla FSD. It is aiming to offer level 3 driving, which is steering, accelerating, braking, and lane centering, all without driver assistance or supervision.
Right, that's the big differentiator. A lot of people are saying, well, Tesla FSD is basically level 3 ADAS, but it's not, because it does still require you to pay attention. Even though it's so good that you arguably wouldn't have to. I say it's good, but I still don't trust it enough. I still need to watch it. It still does the dumbest thing every once in a blue moon.
Like try and get us T-boned by a truck.
Right, exactly. And also the other day, it just went down the wrong side of the street for no clear reason. So anyone who's like, oh, Tesla has it all perfect, we're done. It's like, no, there's still a lot of work left to do. But Honda is, of course, hopefully benchmarking that, because no other companies are doing it as well. I'm not like a Tesla shill. I like a really good product. And so if another company makes a better product, I'll probably buy that one. Yeah. I'm not allegiant in any way necessarily.
I do think it's important to call out too that it will not have all of those capabilities at launch. It is
Right.
a software rollout, so it will plan to come out with updates in the future. But again, the goal is to get it to that full kind of level 3 self-driving, autonomous driving, even to a point where the driver can do a secondary task like watch a movie or work on a laptop.
That's all I want. I just want to be able to work while the car drives me.
And I think Honda has really built their software with that goal in mind. So when we get in the car, we'll be able to see how much it has actually dedicated to building out software and interior ambiance to kind of support you during those secondary task moments, which is very interesting.
Right. So I'm excited to see where their ADAS goes. We don't know the outside tech other than like, okay, it looks like they might be using LiDAR, but also there's some confusion on the internet on whether LiDAR is the right solution. Of course, Tesla is vision-based. I even somewhat disagree with Kyle on that, but sensor fusion is challenging. You know, if the camera sees one thing, the radar sees something else or doesn't, which one is correct? How do you do that sensor fusion? There's a lot to go into it, but it's amazing to see how good Tesla is with vision-based. So I do wonder how Honda's gonna build all that out. And you're right, Honda is launching this one ideally late 2026, the SUV over there early 2026. And I'm hoping they release a full-fledged car. That's fine if it doesn't have level 3 ADAS at launch, but it needs to have good level 2 ADAS. We have too much of this in the tech and now even car industry where companies are pushing out not quite finished products under the guise of, well, don't worry, we have over-the-air updates. I hope they don't lean on that too much like we've seen some other companies do. I hope they don't push out essentially bad beta software because don't worry, we can fix it in post. That doesn't work too well and it doesn't look good, and honestly the headlines of those chaos things is really bad press. So hopefully they are aware of that. And notably, Honda is not spearheading the EV solution like some of the other companies are. Chevy's had EVs for years now. Of course, Tesla's been out there for a while. Lucid's been out. Like a lot of companies have had EVs for years. Honda is behind the game, but hopefully not in the Toyota way where they're like not even going to put something out that's good. Like hopefully they're observing the playing field and then put out some insanely good product next year. We'll see, but let's jump into the interior now and actually get a look at the software, whatever we can. Fortunately, it is like actually functioning software, which is cool, but it's not fully fledged, still prototype. But this interior, I mean, you can even see through the glass. It's fascinating. Okay, Jess, so we just saw the cool entry sequence, essentially. Let's jump in and see what this interior is all about.
It's so roomy.
It is very roomy, yeah.
And I think what's kind of fun is they talk about this being a thin, light, wise car. And of course, light in a sense that it is light. But also they talk a lot about how light plays into the driver and passenger experience in this car. There are so many different modes that we'll show you in a second here, but just being inside this car, it feels like a very intentionally crafted experience using light everywhere.
Right.
In this.
It's kind of a double entendre with just the light. I mean, this is like pulsing, and yeah, so here's kind of my view from the driver's seat. And of course you can see the digital rearview mirrors, which I just really wish we could get those in the US. It reminds me of the Volkswagen XL1 actually, like the exact same kind of curve on the rearview mirrors. But yeah, part of the reason of a yoke is to give you full unblocked view of the driver's display. We saw that on the Model S, which also had a yoke, but it was kind of clunky and obnoxious and just dumb. Like driving a yoke on a normal car is not fun. Like don't reinvent the wheel. But I'm okay with this because this car does have steer-by-wire, which is a huge deal. I guess you haven't driven a Cybertruck yet, but you need to drive Kyle's Cybertruck, and then you'll understand the why I'm preaching.
Yeah, and shout out to Rain, who we will get in a Cybertruck eventually.
Yeah, her friend who absolutely hates them. But that, because steer-by-wire is fine with the yoke, or I guess I should say the yoke is fine with steer-by-wire, because you're really only moving it like not that far, like this far, and then like this far. Like there's not a full like rotation on rotation thing. That's where it gets clunky. But you even saw with how the yoke flipped upside down for me to have better ingress, I guess egress, either way, because it gets out of the way of your legs. That's really cool. That's a perk of a yoke. A round wheel would have, doesn't matter if it turns, it's still kind of in your way. But taking a look at everything else in here, again, they keep reiterating this is prototype, but I'm kind of impressed.
It sounds like the software and the interior experience is close to final.
Yeah, so that's the point of this prototype. And Honda, I guess, when they use the word prototype, they actually mean like kind of closer to final. So it's not really full-on concept. And we can at least see the direction that they're going with on this software, which is, what's it called? Something OS?
Asimo OS,
right.
which of course is a throwback to the Honda robotics robot that debuted at CES in, what, 2001?
2005.
Yeah.
So 20 years ago, they had a robot that everyone loved. It like won everyone's hearts. It was called Asimo, and they are calling back to that with this, I guess, what they call the OS of this car. So, expansive display situation kind of reminds me of the Mercedes EQS, whatever that giant display was called. I forget, infinity display, whatever they call it. And kind of like that again, it is actually separate displays, even though it kind of looks like one giant one. You can see where it actually separates, and I'm hoping, really hoping they use OLED technology. Because otherwise you have blacks that aren't quite black, which against the bezel just look not great. OLED gives you better contrast, just a better overall viewing experience. So I really hope they go OLED, because these do not seem to be OLED. They seem to be LCD. Not the greatest contrast, but again, these are not final production. You can kind of just see the direction they're going. So the displays all change according to the modes. There's even a passenger display in this car, which is kind of cool. But I think, Jess, there's no cup holders in the future. This car is like the future, and there's zero, we'll get to the back in a minute, but zero cup holders.
I mean, this is an executive saloon, so
Right.
It's not really intended to maybe have front passenger. It's not really designed for there to be a lot of storage space, maybe.
No cup holders in the rear either, though. I guess if you're a real executive, you have someone driving you, and then you have someone sitting next to you to hold your drink.
Yeah, exactly. They're holding everything for you, and therefore you don't need the storage space.
Right. So looking past these hilariously GM things, I hope these, what do you call these, stocks? I hope these stocks are not final production, because this is literally just from like a GM, basically. It'd be interesting if they went stockless like Tesla. That'd be fascinating. Because in theory, the future, you know, you don't really have to drive yourself. But let's look at this software. So multiple things here. That's very normal for all the cars. Having a map with kind of a pinch to zoom. It is a little rough. It's not super responsive right now. But hopefully they're benchmarking all the competition and understanding how to build good software. But it kind of gives us an idea of what direction they're trying to go. Some climate control stuff. We can look at that really quick, because that's important. So you'll have ventilated and heated seats, of course, heated, not steering wheel, heated yoke, and the same type of vents where you have to click your finger and drag. Doesn't actually work in this car, but kind of adjust the vents that way, which that's actually also controversial. What is your opinion?
I think if I'm driving and I have to be dragging my finger along the screen, that's a safety concern to everybody around me.
Right. That, yes. You're not a bad driver, but it's so that's the default. That's the default perspective. But I do understand the other alternative perspective, where having multiple drivers typically can mean multiple air vent preferences. And these settings can be saved to your profile. So if you're the type of person that never changes your air vents, which I never really do, then you can just have your profile set to how you like your airflow. I do like that. But also, hopefully they make this really, really responsive and easy to access. And hopefully you're just not driving, because it's level 3 ADAS anyway, so you can just fiddle with this as much as you want.
Yeah, and I will say, as a gas car driver, the vents compared to kind of the clean vent technology that we see in a lot of EVs, like the air does not feel like you're being blasted in the face all the time. So it's true, like we don't touch it that much in the Tesla.
Right.
When I'm in the 4Runner, I'm constantly fiddling with the vents to get the air. So if you have not been in an EV yet, or you're a gas driver considering an EV, the vent technology in EVs I do think is way superior.
Right. I will note quickly, this is supposed to be like a flagship executive type saloon. And at the moment, it doesn't look like ventilated rear seats. That would be the biggest miss ever. So I hope they do add that. But of course, they still could. This is early pre-pro type stuff. So exiting climate, we can go back. Where's home?
Or is it this?
Go back to the car. Oh, well, let's look at drive modes here. We're just kind of discovering this as you guys are too. So it looks like this is close to production, as they said earlier in the SUV, so I'm assuming it's gonna be the same for this. Well, actually, this is funny. I think they're just showing the SUV software, because this shows snow mode. Will this actually, whoa. Okay, if this has like a snow mode with like full rally spec, that is the coolest thing I've ever seen. Screenshot. Having all this stuff is awesome. So economy mode for maximum efficiency. There's even EV sound economy. I wonder what that sounds like. And then comfort, EV sound comfort. I hope they can also have the EV sound turned off. I really hope that's an option. But it'll be really fun to experience this whenever we can actually drive it eventually. I'm trying to see if anything else works. Sometimes cars will have like swipe down or swipe across. Oh, cool. I have no idea what that says, but I'm gonna ignore that, because that could be how they configure this or something.
I think there's the lighting modes.
Yeah, so we'll get to,
Yeah.
here's, oh, this is like music, or in this case, soundscapes for the car. But that's this button right here, which actually looks kind of like the bioweapon defense mode button on Teslas, is actually the driving, or I guess soundscape profiles. Not really sure what to call these, but they have two sections, which is really important to point out, because the idea of the car is driving you without you having to pay attention eventually. Then you can actually just have these as, I guess, lighting and stuff while you're driving. So the awaken, whoa. It actually moves your seat.
It does. And it's cool. It shows you that it changes not only the lighting color, but also music, and then also ventilation as well.
Yeah.
Like they're putting the fans on blast to wake you up.
It tells you exactly what everything's happening. Exhilarate should be the same thing. I'll hold this back further this time. Whoa. So, and we can definitely tell this is not final sound system, because it sounds pretty terrible.
Sounds like a Timu Bluetooth speaker.
It might be. Unwind. Let's see what this is. Cool. Okay. Well, those are the three driving ones, I guess. You can unwind, or be exhilarated, or be awakened. While you're parked is a whole other situation. So you can have a serene theme here, which, ooh, it tells us we're gonna, the seat will move, keep hands, feet, and objects clear of moving parts during operation, just like a roller coaster. And this rotates out of the way. So the idea is just genuine, full-on relaxation.
Yeah.
Are you relaxed?
I'm so relaxed.
My seat's vibrating.
Yeah, and I think they mentioned that there is an intention to have massage capability in the seats as well. Not clear if that's only for the front seats or if that will be offered in the back as well.
Hopefully the back. I mean, if you just look at those seats, you just hope that they're like truly optimized, kind of like BMW 7 Series. That is what they should be benchmarking in this car as well. Not for the electrification stuff. Don't even look at the i7 for electric Honda, because the Prologue is probably better. But looking at it in terms of executive saloon capabilities, that's really it. Okay, exiting that one. I want to see what workspace looks like. It's probably going to do the same thing, isn't it?
We just went front and back.
We just went forward and backwards. Okay. Well, that's pretty minimalist, which is cool, because that's workspace, so you don't want distractions. So I guess we will end that. And then one more to look at, which is meditation. These poor motors. Apply, there we go. Not a very responsive screen yet, but I know that'll be adjusted too. So, full on Earth, or something, I'm guessing that's Earth. And we have meditative music now. How do you feel?
At peace.
At peace, okay. So I want to point out, as we're done with these mode situations, this really feels, not to keep bringing up Tesla, but like the ambient lighting on the door, especially in this purple color, reminds me exactly of how the Cybertruck is. Well, I guess our Cybertruck's currently purple, but the ambient lighting across the front and through the doors, even the door cards themselves, how they look, feels very angular, minimalist Tesla Cybertruck. That's like blatantly what it what it feels like. And even the dash being a giant, expansive something. You could put pizza boxes up there, open them this high, grab a slice. Like, that's what it makes me think of.
I think, yeah, it's interesting when a lot of people saw this concept and they said the Lamborghini Gallardo.
Yeah.
Like, in my mind, I was like, Cybertruck.
Right, and Tesla proved you can do a crazy design and then bring it to production. So for anyone doubting the production capability of this car, I say, case in point, Tesla did it. For better or for worse, a lot of people still really hate it, rain. But I think this car is objectively less bad, I think.
I agree. Yeah, it'll be interesting what they can bring to life.
And so another thing that they mentioned is the AI capabilities, which will be huge. They're really leaning into that. They're partnering with Helm.ai for some of that, or maybe most of it. And so the idea is the car and you kind of become one.
Yeah, and that's really the wise portion of the thin, light, wise slogan that they've been repeating for the Zero series. Supposedly, the AI is able to kind of use the camera technology in the car, patterns, behaviors, to read the driver and passenger moods, schedules, and then adjust the lighting, the modes that we saw in the car to fit how the driver is feeling, thinking, where they might be going.
Yeah. So that'll be really interesting to see how that rolls out, because a lot of things they were describing is like, oh, the AI will detect if you're sad and the car will recommend maybe we should go to Starbucks, or actually there's other places that make me even happier. I don't know.
It'll take you straight to Disneyland.
Lego store. And which is cool, like, and looks good at CES, but like in reality, I wonder the public reception to having so much AI and so much smart, well, not smart home, smart car, it's more like wise car, like they're saying.
Yeah.
But they're trying to use the term wise instead of smart. And having a wise assistant, I'm really curious about the public perception of that, because a lot of people are going to feel like that's too invasive. And
I agree.
a lot of people don't want that. I'm intrigued. I feel like most virtual assistants are just not as helpful as people ideally think they are, but they can do a lot. So will Honda actually be one of the first to like actually make me use it in the car? Because usually I just don't even use them in the car.
Yeah. For anyone who is unfamiliar, when you think of Siri, it's more of a reactive assistant, right? You're asking it to come online and perform a task for you. This Osmo operating system with the Helm.ai feature is intended to be proactive. So it's supposed to sense things, it's supposed to ask you questions, it will ask how you're feeling, ask if you want a treat, maybe, dangerous feature. But it'll be interesting to see just how proactive the AI is in engaging with the driver, especially if you're in traffic. My understanding is that it could like tell you a joke, it will keep you company, you can have conversations with it if you're feeling sad. Replacement for a cheaper therapist maybe. So we'll see how that kind of more proactive and adaptable AI works, because it truly is supposed to be an adaptable AI that learns and grows with the driver profiles that it sees.
Exactly. So we'll see the actual rollout of that, and also what features will be available at launch. Or will it be like, remember how Apple was all like, you know, here's the iPhone 16 with all the AI stuff, and the AI stuff took months to come out before. And we still don't have it all. So like, will they release this car promising AI, but will AI come years or months later? I don't know. We'll find out. Leave your bets below. Anyways, I think that's pretty much the front of this car. This is where the digital rearview mirror will be. This is very placeholder because this looks terrible, but the Polestar 4 hopefully is what they're benchmarking, because that was a gorgeous, high resolution, stunning rearview mirror. And I actually like digital rearview mirrors because as passengers, you can see what's behind you. Whereas in a traditional rearview mirror, only the driver has that angle set for themselves. So I think that's kind of cool. And I also like the digital side mirrors for that reason, but alas, US government. Boo. So that's pretty much it for the front. I mean, I guess you have this carpet stuff, which is kind of, it looks dirty, but it's actually like an intentional design. What do you think of that? I actually love it.
It's what you would call maybe like a higher pile carpet for the carpet enthusiasts out there who know the jargon. It feels like the Mercedes that had, I think, a little bit more of a premium interior flooring.
It won't be Rolls-Royce 1-inch thick lamb's wool though, so room for improvement. All right, to the back. So now we're about to jump into the rear of the car, and you can see the actual side bolster goes with the door. A lot of people are wondering how that would work in CES if they weren't actually sitting inside it. So let's jump in. It is definitely, yeah, I guess I'll let you hold this and you can show the ingress/egress. It is a low, thin saloon, and so you really have to jump in here like this, and that's kind of amazing. You just kind of fall into place.
I think I broke my neck trying to get my head under the door frame.
But once you're in, it's totally fine. I tell people that about my car all the time. And it is very, super, super roomy, including the rear headroom. A lot of cars, I can have the glass going back to like here, which is crazy. I'm glad they have it going all the way back to the lineup with the back of the back headrests. That's really the way to do it, because that gives you full ambient vibe, and it feels very open and airy. And again, no cup holders in the future. They actually said they're not planning on, at the moment, a 5-seat version of this. That could change. A lot of cars, even Lucid was originally unveiled with like a 2-seat kind of executive package, and then they launched with 3 seats because they realized a lot of people wanted 5 people capability, I guess. This is a big enough car to where 5 could be fine if they redesign the seats, but honestly, just forget one friend and just have 4 people that are really comfortable, and then you'll be happy. What do you think?
Yeah, like Fortnite, the 5th person can just stand on the roof.
Exactly. Fortnite works in squads. I think the Honda Saloon also can work in squads. So there's the view from way back here of the IP, the instrument panel and everything. Looks pretty freaking sweet. Ambient lighting all around, like we said. And they said this glass is actually pretty much production, I think.
Yeah,
so,
it'll be single panel.
Single pane. Maybe they'll even do the adjustable transparency stuff like we see with Rivian, and even their Honda cohorts in China with the Ye S7 and P7. Those also get the adjustable transparency glass. So I hope this has that, because that's awesome. You can also achieve a physical shade like the Prologue has, which is also cool. As long as you can block the light and block the heat and everything, that's okay. Tesla doesn't even do it though, and it's not even the biggest deal. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the Saloon. Any other thoughts? I mean, it's a little creaky. It is definitely prototypey, but hopefully, right now they have 2 screens on the back of the chair, which are not touch screens at the moment. They're just placeholder for something. That could be changed in the future. This could also be a screen in the future, or maybe climate control. It's hard to say what exactly they'll do, but I think they're playing with it, and they at least have something for us to look at while we're filming it. And they're taking feedback. A lot of other journalists have filmed this, of course, as well. So if you have recommendations for Honda, throw that in the comments. And I'd say we go look at this SUV, because that's even closer to production. Now that we've completely put you all to sleep, because we go into every possible detail, let's look at the SUV. This is actually, I say the best for last. I say best, but it's just because it's the soonest one to production. They're hoping for the first half of 2026, which in my head is 5 years from now, but that's actually next year, because it's 2025, which is crazy. So, first of all, the exterior. I think it looks phenomenal. It actually does, to me, feel like some callbacks to the Honda E, the little city car that Europe and Japan got that we didn't get, which is really a bummer. But that kind of envelops to me in this like big bar in the front. This feels like a vintage looking grille, but it is just a completely plastic or acrylic or whatever it will be, maybe even glass, I don't know. But there's actually 64 LEDs in here that all can do interesting light up sequences. Maybe they'll do a thing kind of like Hyundai and Kia where there's like different adjustable approach sequences you can do, maybe even something custom, which would be really cool. I know we can't have those flicker while we're driving because of our, again, safety regulations, unlike Europe, which can do a few more things than us here in the US. But I think it's a really fascinating way to have lighting elements, because with the invention of DRLs, daytime running lights, that really is setting the signature look of the car as it comes down the road. So it's cool to have this. It'd be even cooler if you could do something more custom, but you still have the light up new 0 Series logo, and I guess those are the lights. I don't know if these will be DRLs. Maybe the headlights are, yeah, I see down below those, which is pretty cool. And all lit up together would be kind of nice. You can see kind of projector beams in there. Maybe the camera will pick it up, can't really tell. Otherwise, kind of a mix of piano black, and here's the actual airflow into the car for some cooling. And I guess we never talked about frunk, or lack thereof. They're still figuring that out. So now is the time to give them the feedback that you do want a frunk, if you do. Not everyone really seems to care, and a lot of cars have frunks and then never get used, but some people also use the heck out of their frunk. So it really just depends. I'm hoping they don't do, you know, like if you open the hood of some cars like an ID4 or something, you just see inefficient packaging. Same with some of the BMWs, a lot of cars actually. Or maybe, you know, the Kia EGMP Hyundai cars, you open that frunk and it's the tiniest bit of storage. Then you have Lucid and Rivian and Tesla, which have pretty significant usable front trunk capacities. Curious what they do here. With an SUV, it's a little easier to have usable capacity, so maybe they will actually have this as a serviceable frunk. We'll find out. Around the side, we have Pilot Sport EV tires. Michelin, again, these are 21s, and a really cool 5-spoke kind of aero design. Not much in terms of holes going through, so that's not abnormal for EVs to have aero wheels. Really curious to see how their different wheels will look. I'm actually a huge fan of the Prologue wheel design, and a lot of people call it a 4Runner wheel. Jess has a 4Runner. I don't know what you think of those, but these are, I don't know, very different from that right there. Jess, what is your impression of these wheels, which appear closer to production to me than those?
I agree. I think they look unique. I know you lean more into the vintage kind of classic wheels. I swapped my 4Runner wheels out the day after I got it. So I can't speak to the similarities.
Right. So assuming these do go to production, this spec 265 40 21, it's not guaranteed at this point, but it's still interesting to see what is on these show cars. And it's a square setup, which is cool. So I don't know the exact spec, whether it's 21 by 9-inch or something like that. But yeah, otherwise, still a fairly sleek car. Again, this is an SUV. I'm 6 foot tall and it's up to my shoulder. So it's not actually that tall of a car. And to think of the size class, you can think of kind of a C class, not as in Mercedes, but like CRV or other things of that nature. Acura RDX, all the competition. That's kind of the design, the size that they're going with here. But just like the Lamborghini over here, intense C-pillar. Or maybe this is the C-pillar. If you look at here, this could be your third window, I guess. In which case, this would be the D-pillar. Either way, you have a lot of real estate right here. I'm sure wrapping companies would come up with great designs for your, advertising your company right here. Can't wait to see what the meme world does with that, but it's massive. But it's really a pretty interesting design around the back. The front feels pretty safe. The back feels pretty different and unique and controversial. A lot of people who saw this at CES it's a mixed bag. Some people were like, wow, that's so cool. Other people were like, that's horrifying. It's kind of a smile with the LED, which is the opposite of what some other cars have done, where it's like more of a arch. I kind of like it. This presumably be the third brake light right here, and I guess we'll have to see how the lighting elements look in the B-roll. But then you have, the newer Honda badge, not the big H in the back, but just like the Saloon over there, it's just the Honda with the lowercase font, and license plate area, reflector / lights. Pretty, yeah, it's just really interesting how much further out the bumper sticks. It kind of makes it feel like this is one piece and then this is a different piece, almost put in by regulation, but it's a very interesting way to do the design. Around this side, we can also see the same type of situation for the charge port. They put in the same temporary tentative location as a Saloon. Again, I don't know how I feel about that. I don't think this is the best place, way behind the front wheel, because there are chargers that are challenging with the cables sometimes, and I think having the charge port either very close to the front, like a Rivian has it right here, or very close to the back, like Tesla and the EGMP cars, to where you don't have to really stretch it around the car. I've had issues with the Lucid, which has it in the same spot as this, where I had to they had the cable brushing against the front, and it just hurts your paint and makes Colton sad, and yeah, you just don't want that at all. Similar to the Saloon as well, digital side view mirrors. That's a prototype thing that will not be legal at launch, but I'm still holding out for someone to eventually eradicate that law or lack thereof. I think that's about it for this exterior. Very typical SUV things with the black cladding around the wheel arches that make them look bigger and more muscular, and then the black down here, which actually makes the whole vehicle appear slimmer. It's kind of a trick of the eyes to make a big SUV, which this is not that big, but to make an SUV look even slimmer. So you can do that with black. It'd be really interesting to see this thing blacked out, murdered out, as Colton says, or with other fun colors. Notably, the Prologue has some really fun colors. I love that turquoise color, so I can't wait to see what colors they actually bring to these cars. But let's actually jump inside and see what the SUV is all about. Okay, Jess, time for you to get in. Unlike this Saloon, this one being closer to production, presumably, also has usable door handles for us. You press it, and then you stand back and let it present itself, and then you can get in. Oh, look, we even have controls on the seats, which I don't know if they actually work right now, but yeah. All right, I'll meet you inside. As I walk around the front, I'll mention we are apparently the only outlet that actually noticed the headlights down there, both the high beams and low beams and turn signal. So that's what we get for attention to detail. Now I'll wait. These are very slow to open, but that's okay. They're prototypes. We'll talk about the differences, because everything in here is pretty much the same at the moment as the Saloon, but we can actually close ourselves in here. And at the moment, these are all showing to be capacitive buttons. I really hope they don't do that in final production. I think most people don't like capacitive buttons.
It feels a little claustrophobic.
Yeah. You think it does in here?
Oh no, I just meant the buttons.
Oh yeah, because you can just like graze them and then they do something. More of the kind of forged carbon vibe. I think that's just the vibe they really liked when they were picking materials for these concepts, these prototypes. I'm sure they'll have various options. I can't wait to see the various trim options. But right now we do have the digital side view mirrors. And it's interesting. This one over here has a sharp rake. That one over there is a very gradual rake, all kind of meeting in the middle above the display. But same type of infinity screen situation, although you don't have a passenger display this time. You just have a single bar of light. So, sorry about that.
Hopefully that's a prototype.
Maybe they will do a passenger display, maybe an optional thing. It'd be really interesting if they did optional passenger display, but the other option, the lower option, is just this bar of light that matches the ambient lighting. That'd be really fascinating. This is also a little different because it has kind of a Model X-like front window, which is pretty cool. So you see expansive glass above you. I'm trying to like show you my point of view. Looking straight up, and that's nice. I love the Model X. Out of Spec Dave had a Model X and pointed that out so many times. He loves the views, and of course we live in Colorado. We can take the canyon roads and just look at the canyons above us while the car drives itself, because level 3.
Yeah.
Supposedly. At the moment, one wireless phone charger right there. I would love to see some car, maybe it would be Honda, I don't know, I'm giving them early benefit of the doubt. Maybe they could do some sort of Qi 2 wireless charger, which includes magnet capabilities, which means your phone won't just slide around. If you can beat everyone else to market on that, that would be amazing. Because everyone complains about wireless charging, it sucks, but Qi 2 really has helped improve. This is, most wireless chargers are Qi 1 now, in fact all of them are. This could be a cup holder situation, but right now it doesn't really look like it, but hopefully they do have cup holders, because this is not whatever future they were thinking over there in the saloon. People want drinks.
Well,
and we do have little pockets in the door right now, so probably not even close to final production. Hopefully it fits our water bottles. We got in the Prologue, and it fit
the Awala,
water bottle,
which
and
fits nowhere else
right
in any other vehicle.
So if the Prologue does and this doesn't, that's going to be a huge miss. So hopefully Honda can optimize for some of those bigger water bottles, because a lot of people have them, especially out in Colorado where we live. Dash is not quite as expansive as the Saloon, because the windshield, even though it's really raked, is not quite as raked as the one over there. So it doesn't feel overwhelmingly big like Cybertruck. So I guess I won't make that comparison. And I'm not sure if they're going to go steer-by-wire on this too. Hopefully they either do, or they remove the yoke, or they said they might have it as an option.
Yeah, my understanding is the yoke, there will be a yoke and a steering wheel option. That's what they're aiming to have.
Yeah, same GM switchgear that I also hope is not final production. I just don't love it for some reason, but maybe that's how they'll stick with the shifting. I don't know. I'm not really sure. Curious what you guys prefer, because there's cars now with push button shifters, rotating shifters. These kind of pull forward and down. Other ones are just down. Other ones are up. There's shifting all over the place. Different ways to do it. But as far as the screen, everything's about the same as the other car. You can, tap here to go somewhere else. I mean, it's very, very minimal software at the moment. But I guess drive mode, this is what they were showing us earlier. So this one has trail mode. It would have been hilarious if the Saloon had trail as well. The Saloon had sport, whereas this one just has trail and normal and econ and snow, which just looks really cool.
I love that the trail is pink. I
Yeah.
hope this is a color.
That would be really cool.
That it
It's
comes
hard
in.
to say if it's like pink sunset reflecting off a white car, but this car, actually, you're right. This car would look really good in pink, and probably most colors. And part of that's because so much of it is black that you can have a nice color without being an overwhelming amount of color, which is what a lot of SUVs struggle with. Like, that crazy, well, we just looked it up, the orange color in Toyotas.
Oh, yes, the Terra.
Arcane? No, like wait, what is it?
Terra?
The really bright, no, Terra's the
Oh.
darker. The really bright orange.
Solar flare, something. Yeah.
That on like the Sequoia is way too much solar flare. Whereas on something like this, it would look really cool.
Yeah.
Maybe this will be easy to wrap too. It doesn't seem like the curves are too complex.
I'm a little surprised that it does have a trail mode, because I don't know if you've noticed, the visibility in this car is not great.
Yeah.
We're missing about 10 feet of visibility. I think that might be a slight exaggeration. But taking this on a trail, I mean, I would be terrified. You could not see what was directly in front of you.
You're
The
right.
other thing I kind of noticed is the windows are a little high.
Yeah.
I'm surprised they don't come down to here, and maybe that's just for the light bar cohesion with the screen. But it does feel like I'm not getting a ton of visibility out of the side.
Yeah, it does feel airy above you, but kind of claustrophobic on the side, because you're right. The doors, even though the points where your elbows rest and everything is pretty comfortable, although this dip is weird. Like my arm kind of, that's not comfortable. So I guess you'd be doing this, but then if the car is driving yourself, this is a bad, I don't know, ergonomic nightmare situation. Hopefully they fix that. But speaking of visibility, I mean, look behind us. that CD pillar, I'm just going to combine them because it's 2 pillars in one basically with how thick it is. It blocks so much visibility. All you have is a tiny little rear window. Otherwise, it's giant blockage, which they did do some creative storage stuff we'll look at in a second, but otherwise, yeah. But at least you have a nice big rear glass above you, so that's good.
Yeah.
Comfort wise, I mean, again, not final production seats, same type of carpet down there, but I'm okay with the seating position. But you're right, the IP, the instrument panel, feels like it's fairly high. Like if you get in a Rivian, it doesn't feel like super high. It feels like you're kind of on top of the car and you can see everything. Whereas this feels more sleek, low down into it, which is not maybe my preference, but maybe some people would like a sporty driving position. Probably Kyle. Kyle might love this car, but it is, you're right, the visibility out the front is kind of limited.
Which is fine for driving in cities, neighborhoods, highway, but
or being driven by Osmo.
Yeah. The other thing I feel like I want to note is we were in the prologue earlier today, and I feel like it was much roomier than this. Mm-hmm. This feels a little bit more like economy plus
interesting, yeah.
seating, but the prologue felt a little bit more like, I don't know, an exit row situation. There was definitely a lot more room. I don't think this column was as thick, maybe, or maybe it's just the overall width of the car. Not as roomy. I mean, still roomier compared to a lot of SUVs out there. Definitely the RAV4.
Yeah.
But
yeah, still feels fairly open. But I guess let's check out the back row really quick and see how that feels with our little buttons. Love it. Okay, and on this prototype, you just press the middle and then wait. We'll see how the actual final production door handles are. But jumping in the back. This, of course, is a 5-seat. No seatbelts in the prototype, but we definitely have more room back here. We could fit someone between us, I guess. And, of course, really easy access to behind the second row. I love that. And I guess if we... Wait, the back one's the door, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll see how tight it feels back here. But legroom, honestly, really impressive. Like, back here feels less claustrophobic than the front, I think.
Yeah, it does. It feels good. I think that the glass panel on top and the wider kind of dash at the front is helping that, maybe.
Yeah, and
windows still feel very short, but...
You're right. Yeah, I feel like I can't see out, down as much as I'd want to, but I can see all around me pretty well. And we do have the light-colored seats, which are nice. And that helps it feel a bit brighter in here. Really powerful ambient lighting all around, so they really haven't cheaped out on that, which is nice. And wow, this is either heated or something's running through there. I don't know, but it's warm. This doesn't fold down yet or anything, but it will in the future one. So it'll be nice to just lounge back here. And yeah, a bit more simple in the saloon, but also a bit more production ready, it seems, which I like. We'll see what they do with the climate situation. I'm guessing that's what they'll do down here. This feels very much like the vents situation in Rivian / Tesla. So that'll be fun to play with once they actually get this to production. I think it's fun seeing these prototype cars as is right now, and then comparing them with future, even more ready prototypes or production version down the road. Any more thoughts on the back? I guess 60/40 split folding is nice. Lots of room. And I guess that leads us to the final section, the trunk. It's also very interesting how this goes out with the door, even though that was like part of the seat, just like the saloon. That's a really interesting feature. I wonder if that'll make it also to final production. Do you want to do the honor to show them how to open this thing?
Yes, there is a secret way to open the trunk, which is so fun. I'll give you a second to guess what that is, and then I'll show you.
So cool.
So cool. Very much seems like a Honda club secret. I don't know.
I mean, I guess, yeah, unless someone's borrowing your car and has no idea how to use it, like, it's nice if maybe you're the only one who knows how to open your trunk. And also very unique is both the back and the top are actually what opened it. Like that's all the region that opened. I mean, other SUVs do kind of a up and diagonal thing, but this one is such a point in the back. So the fact that they have the whole thing open as like a clamshell is pretty sweet. It doesn't do like a folding type mechanism thing, so this can't extend further out of my way. So it is a bit low. If you're, let's see, 6'11" to, I don't know, 5'8", you're fine. My friend Chris is fine. But here's the storage capacity. It looks pretty good. There's no numbers officially released on this yet. And this does not open, but you can tell they'll have underfloor storage as well, which will be pretty cool. And the ambient lighting even goes back here. That is unnecessary, and that's why I love it. I hope they keep that, because no one else extends ambient lighting into the trunk. Honda, if you do that, you're super cool. If you put ventilated rear seats, you're super cool. All these things that I really want as an occasional rear passenger. This is storage cubbies, where you'll find more of that carbon fiber and hit your head. More of that forged carbon looking thing. This is kind of cool. Little storage. What would you put in here? I'm really curious.
My drugs.
I wonder what people would put in here, but I like that this folds down and then becomes like a table you can put things on. Or you could even conceivably put these both down, and then you have sort of a shelf depending on what type of thing you're loading into your car.
Yeah, and I think ideally there would be an option where people could have a dual layer kind of trunk organization system back here.
Yeah, I can't wait to see the accessories. I mean, that's what a lot of companies try to put out, and matching accessories that add to the flair of the car and also add to their own marketing materials selfishly. That's pretty cool. But yeah, pretty usable space. And this could be a problem, but I don't know how they'd solve it either. I'm really intrigued, unless they just like make it open even further out, but then I don't know, that gets complicated.
It's better than Tesla's.
Better than Tesla's, Jess says. So yeah, we'll see what EVSE or stuff they put in there, if they even include one. I'm guessing that's, yep, how you close it. So it's a capacitive close thing, at least on the prototype. But it is cool to see the actual glass in here. I did like having that. I hope they have the digital rearview mirror and the ability to see out the back with the glass. So that's pretty much it for walking around the SUV, seeing the interior. Of course, we didn't have to dive into the software because at the moment it's all the same between the two cars. But that was a lot of information. What do you say we add more? I'm just kidding. Let's finish this thing up. All right, now that you have woken up from your nap, let me end this video. These are both really interesting prototypes. It's really cool to see how far they've come, especially on the Saloon, having seen it a little over a year ago at CES 2024. Now seeing this rendition in 2025, and like I've said a few times, I like to see the progress of early concept, even some of the cool early drawings of the concept, to the concept car, to more of the prototype car, and I'm excited to see maybe another rendition of prototype at some point, or maybe it'll just be production intent ready to be in the hands of journalists. I'm really intrigued to see software, all the ADAS capabilities, charging and battery and range, and all the things we typically test every EV with. It'll be really fun to test these through those paces. SUV, like I said, is touted to be first, aiming for early 2026 or the first half. This could be the second half. We'll kind of see. It still looks pretty early to me, but also who knows? Things have happened much slower or faster across the industry, so I'm not one to say what's going to happen. I'm not one to take bets, but I'm really excited whenever they do actually come out, and can't wait to play with them. I like all the lighting elements. I like the idea of the thin light and Ys. The Ys is kind of the biggest question mark to me, because I don't know, again, what the AI stuff is going to be as far as general perception and reception from drivers. Curious what you guys think on all of this front. Of course, we don't know all the specs, but as far as the trajectory, the projection, where you think it's going, curious what you think of these two cars. Everything we showed you, it was a lot. This is a long video. But hopefully that's kind of an idea of where Honda is headed. Jess, any final thoughts?
No, I think these are two great concept cars. I'm excited to see how it comes to life. And yeah.
Yeah, I really hope that the design is closer to production than many people expect. It's really fun to see how, like I said, Kia and Hyundai seem to play with keeping concept cars very close to heart when they do final production design. And now that we've seen Cybertruck, we know anything is possible. So these, I think, objectively look better than Cybertruck, although the C/D pillar situation is pretty wild to see in person. But maybe that's a whole new rendition of like it's useful in this SUV in some ways with the storage where like windows normally would be. Windows are such a waste of space, right? Eventually they'll just be cocoons of screens and storage and we don't have to look outside. Hopefully not. But thank you guys for watching and sticking around for so long. And I can't believe the software was like touchable. Like there's things I wasn't really expecting and I'm glad we got to squeeze this in. So it's because of you guys watching and supporting us that we can have these opportunities. We didn't quite get to squeeze it in with CES because, well, there was 141,000 people there. So that was, you know, a bit hard and we were trying to film so many things. So big shout out to Honda for bringing us back out here to California to check these out. Can't wait for the next rendition. And I can't wait for my electric roadster. Hurry up.